Hey everybody. Today we're going to show you how to take a Spring Boot application with a custom health indicator, package it with Chef Habitat, and make sure that the health reported by the Spring Boot actuator is actually used by the health check and thus reported by Chef Habitat. Now, the first thing that we need to do is create a plant file. This plant file makes use of the build phase callbacks to build and install a jar file that's going to be used by a run hook. And what it does here is it actually leverages the Maven phases such as clean, compile, and test in the build phase callbacks clean, build, and check. And most importantly, in do install, it creates a jar file and copies it into the uh, package uh, produced by this build. Now, in the run hook, we have a simple Java-jar invocation, and we render our any Java options that we need to add, the active profile that's going to be used by Spring, and very importantly here, we're actually passing the location of a rendered config directory. And we can see what that looks like here. We have the render config directory, and inside of it is an application.yaml, which will contain properties used by the Spring application. We can see some system level configuration, system level values such as sys.ip, and also configurable values such as config.application.unhealthy-seconds. And in our Spring Boot application, this is going to determine how many seconds the application is going to be unhealthy for once we hit a particular endpoint, which is meant to to make the Spring Boot actually report as unhealthy. We have a default.toml that will allow us to have default values for those particular values that we just saw without the need for config modifications during runtime. For example, that particular value we're looking at, application.onHealthySeconds, we give it a default value of 10. And lastly, we add a health check, which is not actually necessary for a Chef Habitat application to be a service. Only the run hook is necessary. But this health check defines the health reported by the Chef Habitat service using its exit code. And the way it does that is it curls the Spring Boot actuator endpoint and then returns a status code based on the response. So we can see that 200 is okay. 503, which is the status code reported by the Spring Boot actuator when it's down. This is going to be critical. If you supply the wrong actuator base path, you're going to have unknown. If you get a 404, if you hit a 500, it's also going to be unknown. Anything else is going to be critical. Now, the health toggle, sorry, not the health toggle, but the health indicator, which uses the health toggle that I'm going to show in a second. The health indicator is very simple. If the health toggle says that it's healthy, report up. If not, report down. Now, what is this health toggle? This health toggle is an auto-wired bean that is used both by this health indicator and also by this controller here. So we can see both of them are sharing this particular bean. Now, when you hit this particular endpoint, make dash unhealthy, this actually calls a function in the health toggle to make it unhealthy for a predefined number of seconds. And we can see this is actually coming from the application.yaml that we rendered with Chef Habitat. So this is going to be 10 by default. And so we do health toggle that set unhealthy. And what that actually does is it asynchronously schedules a function to reset it. But first we set it to false. So it's going to be false, then it's going to wait 10 seconds, and then it's going to be healthy again. So in a second, I'm going to show you what that looks like in action. We can easily deploy the application that we just implemented using ShuttleOps. With ShuttleOps, we log in, go to build, and hit the plus icon for a new deploy pipeline. We'll take the code selection and find ourselves a repository that we're linked to. So here I'm linked to GitHub already. I actually use GitHub to sign in. I can select this examples repository. I'm going to add it. And here I'm going to have to specify exactly where the plan file is. So it's going to be in Spring Boot / Habitat / plan.sh. This is where the plan file exists. We're going to hit save. And we have ourselves a build pipeline. We're just going to name it appropriately. And we can hit launch. Now that it is launching, we just have to wait a few seconds and it's going to start to build. Now that our build pipeline has finished successfully, we can go into the deploy tab and create a deployment pipeline. In the component selection, we can specify the origin, and the origin that my connection is configured to is ShuttleOps-example series. So I can select that application, and let's actually configure it to make the application unhealthy for 20 seconds. We can now select the instances that we're going to deploy on. I'm going to be deploying on T2 micros, and I'm actually going to scale them up to 3 instances because we're going to be putting them behind a load balancer. The load balancer is going to be listing on port 8080, and we're also going to whitelist port 8080 on the instances themselves. Now that this pipeline is configured, we can go and launch it. And this will just take a couple minutes. Now that our deploy pipeline has completed, we've created 3 instances and a load balancer in front of them that is configured to have health checks based on the health check of the Chef Habitat service. We can see our load balancer right here. We can hit our application, and we can see in AWS the load balancer has been provisioned and all of its instances are currently in service. But if we make use of the make unhealthy endpoint, we can make one of these instances unhealthy for 20 seconds, in particular the instance with the last octet ending in 170. And you can see here that this response has gone to one of the backend instances, and sys.ip, the Chef Habitat runtime variable that can be used in runhooks and configuration templates, has been rendered into the application.yaml of the Spring Boot application and is currently being shown in the endpoint right here as we hit the make unhealthy endpoint. If you go into AWS, very soon the health check thresholds for the maximum number of unhealthy responses of the ELB are going to be met. And this instance, as we can see here, is out of service. And if we hit that instance in AWS, we can see that the last octet is indeed 170, which is what we saw in our endpoint. Hopefully now you have a better understanding of how to package Chef Habitat applications, in particular this Spring Boot application. Hopefully you have a better idea of how Spring Boot concepts such as the actuator go hand in hand with Chef Habitat concepts, in particular the health check, and hopefully you have a better idea of how to deploy Chef Habitat applications with ShuttleOps. If you want to use ShuttleOps, just go to shuttleops.io and you can hit the login page, and here you can log in with GitHub and start deploying away.